And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in business here with the Khorne vs. Ogre Kingdom showdown. It's going to be Valkya versus the Tyrant. Both of them have their own goon squads. Valkya, of course, going to be teaming up with the Bloodbrute Behemoth and some Minotaurs. And the Tyrant bringing in the Double Giant as well as the Slaughtermaster and an Iron Blaster, which I feel is a very, very underrated unit. The Iron Blaster can do some serious work against Monstrous Infantry, against Cav, all sorts of targets like that. So I love that pick coming in here from Arrow. Now for my army, it's going to be Shielded Warriors in the front line, and honestly, I prefer them to the Halberds. I find that the Halberd variants are obviously better in a vacuum against Ogre units, like the actual Ogre units. I'm not talking the whole roster, but the problem is the Halberd units kill like infantry that aren't monsters relatively slowly. So in my experience, I've had my Halberds like tar pitted really heavily by Noblars, and they don't have the killing power to really kind of push through them as quickly as the shielded variant does. So I like to go with the shielded variant. They have silver shields against any sort of ogre, Noblar missiles or ninja stars. On top of that, they just are a little bit more stalwart with good melee defense, and I just really like the shielded variant. I honestly think they're the way in this matchup, but maybe they're not. Who knows? Do have the Bloodbrute Behemoth in the back. This thing is anti-large. It is armor piercing. It also has really good regeneration and combat of 0.20. I figured that there would be some sort of like monstrous goon squad, whether it be like Stonehorns. I was not expecting giants, but I figured there'd be some big things. So Valkya as well as the Bloodbrute will be teaming up, and some Marauders to hold the objectives. Now for Arrow's army, it is going to be Double Giant, which is very scary. And we were actually talking during the game, and I was like, hey, why didn't you bring the healing for the Giants? Where's the Troll Guts? He's like, well, the Giants, I figured they have enough HP, which most people don't actually try and kill Giants, right? Unless you're like a missile faction, of course. But in like melee fights, they're very tough to kill. And I actually kind of really liked that point from him. He does also have the Butcher of Beasts, who's going to be coming in with the Flock of Doom and the Curse, a couple Noblars to the back, and Scrappers, same thing. Going to be heading on over to the side objective. So one cool thing about replays is we can do a little bit of sweet fast forwarding while the army's posture in position. Arrow summons out some Ogre Bulls to buffer out his army. And for myself, I'm not sure if I summon in anything yet. We have our Minotaurs up, and we're trying to hide behind this pillar here. And he's trying to reposition his Iron Blaster to shoot me. I was trying to line of sight it, but he was able to kind of get it behind the tree there and didn't quite notice it. And we'll be getting some big DPS here into the Minotaurs. For my reinforcements, we have Marauder Horseman of Khorne and Throwing Axes. Fleshhound's going to be coming around the back objective. I figured that if he was just grabbing it with Noblars, I would be able to kind of ninja it. Maybe take the Noblars down and get it with those Fleshhounds right there. A couple of Minotaur models actually straight up killed, and Sloupnir going down as well. So Valkya with a MLG Sloupnir. Now, yes, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's only like, 200 gold you really did there. Maybe like 250. But now there's no more like meat shields for the ogres as well as the giants, and we're going to be feeling quite a bit better. So here we do go into the Bloodbrute Behemoth, and the last second turnaround, realizing it's a little bit shady there with all the ogres. But the Minotaurs do get a good charge here. The Minotaurs get right on top of the ogres, and I know ogres are big and thick, but nothing is quite as thick here as these big Minos with the great weapon. So they're going to be chopping up these Ogre Bulls very easily, and now we have our big Godzilla King Kong fight. Curse of Onrare going down. Very nice. Arrow expecting a blob fight, so brings a blob debuff spell. So Valkya is going to be debuffed, the big Bloodbrute Behemoth is going to be debuffed, and honestly, they're having a little bit of trouble striking home. I do have the Throwing Axes in the back, which are hands down doing the best work for me right now. And look at that, the kaiju fight, the big monsters knocking one another over as we do see the Bloodbrute Behemoth go down. Valkya does pop her anti-large ability, or excuse me, her invulnerability while she does her anti-large damage. So she was getting hit by the giant, so I popped the Demon Shield to make her immune, but oh, look at that. I love it. Let's just like watch the cinematics of this. Who cares about the rest of it? Right on the head, man. He's just bonking this guy. Is it going to happen again? Oh, look at that. They do actually have some sync animations. The Bloodbrute Behemoth like hit his leg there. I feel like giants are like the kings of sync animations. But very cool stuff. Flock of Doom going down from Arrow. I do have the objectives. The back objective currently being threatened, so I sent some warriors over there and Fleshhounds as well. And we should be able to clean out the Ogre Bulls. A single Chaos Warrior, even without Halberds, will actually defeat an Ogre Bull, but they cost 300 gold more, right? So it's not necessarily the best trade in the world for you, but if you stack Fleshhounds, they do insane damage against light targets, and Ogre Bulls only have like 30 armor, right? So you can see we mulched this, and we're going to be going for that triple cap. Now, as far as the fighting goes in the middle, though, Arrow's definitely doing a little bit better in the Kaiju fight. Bloodbrute Behemoth gets a little bit smashed up. My Minotaurs as well. I get one giant very, very low. You can see my Horseman trying to circle and get on the giant, but Arrow with a good micro is able to pull back and through the trees and really avoid me here as the Fleshhound reinforcements do come in looking to kind of chew through the Noblar Trappers, which is something that they'll be very good at. So trying to find a home for the Bloodbrute Behemoth. It was getting smashed up by giants. Giants are some of the best SEM duelists in the entire game. And when I say SEM, I'm talking about single entity models. So individual models, not something like these Chaos Warriors, but something that has only one model like a hero or a monster. Giants have crazy HP pools, 700 weapon strength. Even like anti-large monsters can struggle against them. And you saw that going down there. as I was forced back, but we do have the triple cap, which is pretty big. We have pulled the value back a little bit. Marauder Horsemen kind of bounced over there. Flesh Hounds as well as Chaos Warriors were able to win their respective fights. So we really, really need to maintain that triple cap for as long as possible, considering I am a little bit behind here. Granted, the Ogres don't really have any heavy healing or anything like that, and Valkya descending from the sky is going to be going after the Tyrant here, and the Bloodbrute Behemoth just trying to keep it away from the Giant and the Iron Blaster, and that Iron Blaster has been just blasting this this Bloodbrute all day, man. And that's what I was like trying to juke. You might be wondering why I didn't go in there. So I was like trying to avoid the Iron Blaster here, but it's just nuking this thing. Let's watch another shot right now. Okay, I'm watching. Iron Blaster going to be turning about face here, trying to line up the Bloodbrute Behemoth. And another shot, and look at that! It knocks it down! It like staggers it, dude! That thing is doing some good work, and I'm really happy to see that the Iron Blasters like have a home after being a bit of a neglected unit for some time, right? Valkya, the Monster Hunter, is in here battling the Giant, although there are two Giants, but the mighty Valkyrie of the Blood God is going to be popping her Demon Shield, so she will be immune to damage for a period of time. And, oh, look at that! That was like a sync kill on the Giant! How cool is that? And these are some of the coolest moments we've had in a while in these replays, but Valkya going to be retreating after that very wisely, because the Giant and the Tyrant would be able to take her down. Still using the Marauder Horseman throwing axes to try and drag down the beasts. Middle objective still in our control. Back objective also in our control. Some Chaos Warriors holding on to it. But those Iron Blasters basically nuking all my anti-large capabilities, like the Minotaurs, the Bloodbrute Behemoth, all those things really getting taken out. The Bloodbrute Behemoth, I think, only got like 300 or 400 value overall. So just charging the Minos in before, you know, they run out of steam. I was like, hey, let's get a little bit of work done here. We still have some Chaos Warriors, Flesh Hounds moving into Ogre Bulls. Ogre Bulls will probably win that considering the health. Valkya juking. And now I have summoned in two Cultists. So Cultists of Khorne are very, very good. They obviously will get smashed by Giants, but they're pretty hard to fight. They can sit on objectives. They give you 3 capture weight for a long time. It takes a lot to remove them. And they're small targets against Ogre shooting. So I figured we would kind of go that way. Dude, the Iron Blaster once again wreaking massive havoc here on my Marauder Horsemen. As I pull back, trying to stabilize the objective, a lot of Ogres moving that direction. Arrow is also getting a pretty good advantage here in the middle, so you can see this middle objective is going to be flipping for Khorne here in a second. And I'm down 2,000 value, and of course I could see that during the game. So now I figured at this point it was take advantage of my speed, my Flesh Hounds, my Marauder Horsemen, and trying to hold the objectives for as long as I can, and hopefully I can win on 2 points, because... or excuse me, 1 point eventually, because Ogres, they're coming to get me, and they're making their way back into this battle. Maneater Great Weapon's coming out. I do like that tech. I think the Maneater Great Weapons against Flesh Hounds, also very good against Chaos Warriors with their armor piercing. Marauder Horsemen just getting Shadow Realms here by the Iron Blaster, which has already accrued 2,500 value. Pretty insane. Valkya landing here, going after some Ogre Bulls, backed up by her Marauder Horsemen, and they, of course, have 44 weapon strength. So, granted, they're an anti-infantry unit. They still do pretty good, especially with Valkya, and we're just trying to break the capture weight off. Middle objective, though, very, very happily controlled here by the Ogre Kingdoms. The two Cultists sitting here, I thought about going in after the Giant. Like, you see a Giant, and you're like, oh, that thing's kind of low. Look at it. It's got 6,700 HP. But you have to remember, these things only have 4,000. This Giant hits way harder, has better combat stats. And now we're going to go for a Ninja in the middle. So we have the two Marauders coming in, as well as the Flesh Hounds, trying to put a little bit of a distraction here, hoping the Ogres will, like, overextend on the side point. That's really what I got to get going here. So Flock of Doom going down. I think he probably thought there was some infantry there, but there wasn't, so it just hits Valkya. It doesn't do a whole lot. Chaos Warriors here. I do use the Relentless Rage, which is going to make them unbreakable. So I was trying to just hold this point for as long as possible. Man-Eaters obviously hit very, very hard. These guys know how to crump. And yeah, I think Man-Eater Great Weapons are a unit that I'd like to see explored more. We see like Minotaurs with Great Weapons being very good, and these guys pretty much cost the same, and they perform in a very similar role. They're very fast. Like, maybe they're a meta thing for the Ogre Kingdoms that has yet to be discovered. Flesh Hounds moving in to fight, but unfortunately, those Man-Eaters will be having a bit of a field day. Chaos Warriors trying desperately to hold on to this, and now we're going to be swinging on over to the middle objective here, trying to get this one as we get Valkya in here, and the two Cultists are fighting. Trying to get that Tyrant down, but he's got some big bodyguards. He's got the Ogre Bulls here and the Giant, and also a Slaughtermaster too, or a Butcher, excuse me. Butchers are very, very good. And we do break the Tyrant. The Tyrant does get broken, but Valkya is also in a lot of trouble as well. 1,200 HP on her. That Giant's able to really, really get a lot of damage in. And the two Khornate Cultists trying to get those Bloodletter summons. Look at that, man. That Giant just hitting like a truck. This Valkya is actually going to be breaking right here. Yeah, scary stuff. Middle objective, though, looking at the capture weight. For some reason, I cannot see it. Oh, there it is. It's behind the pillar right there. But Ogres have more capture weight. And Ogre Bull dual weapons, they're going to be crumping my Marauders. They have bonus versus infantry, they get the charge bonus. These Marauders have light armor, so they're not going to be terribly resilient against the big Ogre charges. Overall, this is just not a good fight. And you can see the Marauders getting absolutely smashed, and the Ogre Bull dual weapons taking like 0 damage. And yeah, Ogre dual weapon infantry, really, really scary stuff. We get some more Marauders up on the point, just trying to swing it back. Double Cultists of Khorne. We did summon some Bloodletters out, and Bloodletters are actually pretty trash against Ogre Kingdoms. They're very much a bonus versus infantry armor piercing character, and ogres don't have a lot of armor, nor do they have that many infantry pieces outside of Noblars. So like Bloodletters, if you guys are playing Khorne, you want to be doing warriors or halberds as your baseline, or just one of the warrior variants, shields or halberds. They're both viable. Like halberds spam can work very well too against ogres, depending on what they bring, but overall, I prefer the shields. I just think that's the way, but we'll have to see. So, looking at the score, I do have 957 to 355. Ogre's going to be sending some Ogre Bulls to the back objective here, so you can see very, very sneaky play as Arrow's going to be charging through the woods, looking to jump on objective 3 there and take that away from me. And the middle objective is slightly being contested. We're actually starting to get this one back a little bit. We do get the Butcher down, so the Butcher gets dragged down by a bunch of Marauders, which was pretty fortunate. And the double Cultists of Khorne putting up an okay fight, but overall the Giants are really, really just... the Giant is a super big problem. Not really any chance to get this back objective back. I do have some Chaos Warriors back there who need to be unsummoned, so a little bit of housekeeping. This objective, the capture weight is really, really just flowing back and forth. Those Ogre Bull dual weapons that butchered my Marauders got taken out by a couple Fleshhounds. Fleshhounds are a very good answer against dual weapon bulls because they're not infantry size. They're actually monstrous. So they do not take the bonus from those Ogre units. And like I said, they do a lot of damage against armor here. So we broke those Ogre Bulls. We got rid of the capture weight. And now we swing the middle objective back. So that's pretty big for us. So that's, with a point lead like this, it really puts the pressure here on the Ogre Kingdoms to get a triple cap, which is what we want. But they're far enough ahead in value. They have almost a 3,000 value lead that, it's very possible for them to get that type of a cap here. So Valkya going to be attacking the Noblar Scrap Launcher. Not sure if it was necessary, and we do see the Ogres coming through the woods here. So Fleshhounds are a great response piece. So we got 2 Fleshhounds coming out, and I think 1 Fleshhound, I don't know if they actually beat an Ogre Bull, like if they both charge each other. Ogre Bulls have a fat charge bonus and pretty high weapon strength against light armor. I think the Fleshhound might win. But again, they cost like 200 or 300 more than a Ogre Bull unit, so it's a good trade for you. So 2 Fleshhounds coming in, and they will be nibbling on these Ogres here, as the, I think a third one's coming in, a very tattered one as well. No, there's remnants of that second unit. Noblar's on their way in, but we do kind of stop that cap, and the Ogres, unfortunately for me, they were coming to get you as they do take this objective, and it's looking pretty scary. I mean, he's got a big army. I don't really have a whole lot left. I have some Marauders around the battlefield. The Flesh Doggo's doing a great job against the Ogre Bulls, but ladies and gentlemen, we have sneaky tricks up our pockets, as we do have the Cultists, both of whom survived. And regardless of the health of single entity models, they actually always get full capture weight, unlike infantry. So these Cultists are going to be having 3 capture weight apiece, plus this one's probably like 2 on these Marauders, considering how damaged they are. This is probably 1. So we're going to be having, close to 10 capture weight here with all these characters. And our odds of getting this objective are pretty good, especially using some Fleshhounds to maybe come over and support. And the Giant can't be everywhere at once. Looking at the value of the Giant so far, got about 1,600. So it's just about paid for itself. And we have managed to get the Flesh Doggies to kind of secure this point here. Attacking the Noblars. A couple of Khornate units fighting in the middle as long as possible to hold them back. Valkya is still very much alive with 750 HP. Trying to come over to the back objective, which is probably the right call, just to have her, maybe push off some of these Ogre infantry units. Marauders, or excuse me, the Cultists with good capture weight. Fleshhounds themselves, I think, have 3 capture weight. And the Man-Eaters are very damaged, and so too are the Ogre Bulls here, so they're not going to be having a ton of capture weight. And we do get another Fleshhound unit coming out of reinforcement. So we got to just hold on to these objectives for as long as possible. This was a pretty big play. If we didn't get this objective, if we didn't snake it, I'm pretty sure the game's just 100% over. And even still, it's looking pretty good for the Ogres. I'm spread very, very thin, and we do see the Ogre Bull models now charging through, having crushed. These are the Man-Eater great weapons, so they have a ton of armor piercing and actually perform exceptionally well against Chaos Warrior units. So they're moving in. The big Chungus is heading for the objective. Couple of Fleshhounds going to be trying to desperately hold this. Valkya also going to be swooping in. And I do have some Marauder Horsemen coming to the back objective here as well. And I think Valkya plus the Fleshhounds and the Marauder Horsemen should be able to fend off this like kind of tattered Ogre push. Granted, the high ground is going to be doomed. We'll hold it for a moment, but what's going to happen is the 2 Cultists are going to get smashed. The Doggos are going to get taken down by the Giant, just the combination of chaff units, and we're going to be paying the Troll Toll here. I do have some Marauder Horsemen, which I sent over as a capture weight piece. Basically, I knew they wouldn't like turn this fight, but we just wanted them to kind of hold on to the point for as long as possible and give capture weight to slow down the progress of the Ogre Kingdoms. Yep, more Ogres on their way over, Noblars, and another Giant is coming as well, so the big man is back out of reinforcements. And that's the thing about Giants, they're actually pretty cheap, only 1,500, where they can contend with units that cost, like, a Giant versus Bloodbrute Behemoth is actually not a bad fight, and the Giant costs like 600 or 700 less. Like a Giant versus a Dread Saurian, the Dread Saurian wins, I think, but the Giant puts a huge hurt on it and literally costs like 700 gold less, right? So Giants are very, very cost-effective under the right circumstances. They're very slow, though, so you have to kind of take that into account. Very vulnerable to missiles with low armor compared to some of the other monsters, like the Chim King's monsters, which have high armor values. Dread Saurian has better armor, etc., etc. So you weigh the pros and cons. Back objective is stabilized. Valkya just barely holding on with 600 HP. Marauder Horsemen going to be chasing some of these Ogre Bull units down, trying to rout them before they come back in, throwing some throwing axes here, trying to break the scrap launcher. And I think Khorne Marauder Horsemen are one of my favorite ones in the game. The fact that they're so good in melee combat with like super high melee attack and a really good charge bonus of 40, like kind of makes them perform similar to like a Illyrian Reaver type unit as well. So they hold it, they push them back. Here, the Fleshhound's trying to keep the Noblar Tide at bay. Back objective is 100% going to be going to the Ogre Kingdoms. As you can see, that's going to be flipping here in a second, and it's looking a little bit scary. We're holding on to this one. We're holding on to this one for now. We're very, very close to winning, only 50 points off. But as soon as these guys rout, you're going to see this objective flip immediately for the Ogres. And guys, get a little bit shady. A lot of Ogre Bulls. I thought the game was over. I was actually talking to Arrow in chat, and I was like, oh man, you know, I already started reviewing the end game. I was like, yeah, you know, interesting how this worked out. But then suddenly, I did not notice all these Ogres coming from the tree line. I was like, oh my god. I started to sweat bullets, but at the end of the day, I realized he probably didn't have enough time. But like, if Arrow had another maybe 15 seconds, I'd lose that game. I had like nothing there. He wins. Crazy, crazy match. And a lot of it came down to that back cap and being able to hold that for a while. That was pretty big. And that's the weakness of Giants, is that they, you know, it's kind of hard to spread them out. But we did manage to kill one Giant. 1900 value, 1100 on that one. Iron Blaster with 3000. It's the Iron Blaster of old. So if you guys learned anything from this game, hopefully it's that the Iron Blaster is still very much viable. My build was a pretty competitive Khorne build. It wasn't like a meme build by any stretch. It was very competitive. And his build was cool. I love the Man-Eater, great weapons. I think there was a lot of neat stuff. And yeah, Fleshhounds obviously MVPs. They've always been great against Ogres. Cultists, I don't know how well they did. Maybe it was a bit of a weak pick. Maybe instead of Cultists bringing out Halberds would have made it very difficult to remove me from the middle. I think so. So maybe replace the Cultist in the Ogre matchup with 2 Halberds here. Open with Shielded Warriors, and once the Noblars are cleared out, you bring in the Halberds, and that's when you really shine. Anyways, GG, well played. We'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you enjoyed that Iron Blaster and Double Giant action. We had a bit of fun. We'll see you on the other side.